Shri Shri Ras Viharini Ju Ki Jai Ho. Kishori Seva Trust presents the reading of Shri Hari Raji Bade 41 Shiksha Patr, Letters of Instruction. Today is day 36. We are in letter 10 and we'll continue to 11. Letter 10, verse 7. Salvation of Jai Shri Krishna. You will cease from counting your worldly sufferings when you fix your mind exclusively on this form of highest bliss. If you are diseased, you won't mind eating bitter medicine for a cure, so patiently tolerate worldly suffering to gain release from mundane existence. Only grief can arise from constant worry about your mundane realm and relationships, which makes you forget the Lord. His remembrance will arise when you constantly contemplate him alone. A Vaishnava, being a pure devotee, should not ponder upon worldly affairs, but rather feel pangs of separation from their dear Lord. Always meditate on the Lord's fine qualities and recognize your own faulty nature. Then the Lord will feel merciful towards you, and as described in the Nirodha Lakshan, Nirodha, bound by Sri Hari treatise, when the beloved sees the divine affliction of his own souls, he becomes full of compassion. Then Sri Hari, who is always joyful, manifests from their hearts directly before them. When the Lord sees a devotee's suffering due to such feelings of separation, he appears before that devotee. In the 5 chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the Rasa Leela, or great circle dance, it is told how, when the gopis felt proud of their status, he disappeared from their sight. Then the gopis suffered immense pains at their separation from him, and so he reappeared. This path of grace emulates those divine sentiments of the devotees. In this way, heartfelt, sincere pain at separation from him secures his grace. Therefore do not grieve for the world, rather experience a craving to meet him, the embodiment of perfect bliss. The example given is that a person while suffering from a disease will willingly eat very bitter medicine in order to recover. So when you understand that worldly emotions such as lust, anger, pride and envy are like a disease, in order to oust that disease, you will take the bitter pill of patiently tolerating worldly afflictions and instead contemplate the blissful Lord. Then you will gain his grace and he will release you from all sadness. Therefore stop dwelling on the pains of the world and meditate on your separation from him instead. This will please him. Verse 8. Lord Sri Hari never acts against his own dear devotees. He is the true friend of everyone in the whole world, so why not to his devotee? Tika 8. It is Sri Krishna's very nature to act always for the benefit of his devotees. In the Mahabharata, he selflessly proved Bhishma's words to be true and then blessed him at the time of his death. Sri Krishna's father, Sri Nandaraji, performed a worship ceremony of the goddess Ambika and thus betraying his faith in Sri Krishna. He was therefore swallowed by the Sudarshan serpent. When he subsequently repented, Sri Krishna blessed him and released him from that snake's clutches. In this path of grace, if the Lord allows you to suffer, so that your innate bad qualities can be purified, then you should not grieve, because the outcome will always be beneficial. The Lord is the nourisher and protector of all embodied souls, so is it at all surprising if he blesses his own dear devotees? He has always done so, is doing so, and will continue to do so. Therefore, devotees of this path of grace should simply and exclusively contemplate the Lord's qualities and sing his praises. Thus concludes letter 10. Continue now with letter 11, which has 6 verses, and its subject matter is 4 duties. Translator's introduction. This is a brief letter with precise instructions for a devotee's life from a practical point of view. The glories of satsang, devotional association, are sung. This 11th letter describes a devotee's duties as being these 4: singing the Lord's praises, pining in his separation, humility, and renunciation. Just previously we read how the Lord never allows harm to come to his devotees and always does what is beneficial for them, and that under no circumstance should a devotee give up this path of devotion. In this letter now follow instructions for a devotee's way of life. Verse 1. Keep your mind and heart firmly and constantly absorbed in Sri Vallabhacharyji's lotus feet. for they are the source of all devotional sentiment. Tika number 1. I will now describe the marks of a true devotee of the Lord. At all times, they establish their mind at Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet, which are the source of all divine sentiment. They take sole refuge in those feet and absorb their minds into them in thought, word, and deed. Verse 2. Those whose hearts hold this strong conviction will find full satisfaction through the dedication of their minds to his lotus feet, but those who argue with and oppose this fact definitely succumb to an ungodly disposition. Tika. Those who do not have faith in or argue with the principle that devotional fulfillment occurs when the mind rests at the lotus feet of Sri Acharyaji are surely ungodly. This path is fully approved in the Vedas, Shastras, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, so to deny this fact is impious. Verse 3. At all times, cherish in your heart the remembrance of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, along with all of his divine pastimes. Tika 3. Sri Krishna is the ultimate reward of devotion. His own supreme form is replete with pure nectar and full of divine loving sentiment. Always remember him thus, along with his pastimes and intimate devotees. This love-filled nectarian Lord constantly interacts with the gopis in various ways. Establish him, the highest manifestation of Godhead, in your heart. Your heart embraces that upon which you focus your mind. If you fill your mind with worldly thoughts, then your heart will be just that, full of mundane concerns. If you fill it with his remembrance, he and his divine pastimes and an entourage will establish themselves therein. Verse 4. A devotee with purified division will live by praising the Lord, pining for him, being humble and fully renounced, and having no attachment to worldly and scriptural considerations. Tika 4. Sing of the Lord's pastimes, suffer pangs of separation from him, develop humility, and by doing so renounce mundane and scriptural concerns. Cultivate these 4 modes of action for sure. By singing his praises, all your inherent impurities will be reduced to ashes. Your heart will be purified. You will become aware of your faults, and thereby recognize your insignificance and the Lord's magnificence. In this humble state, you will clearly see that you are not really performing any practices pleasing to him and are unworthy of his grace. When this sense of your personal incapability leads to genuine humility and nothing except the Lord can give you any pleasure or satisfaction, then you will lose your foolish attachment to mundane and scriptural ritual. So cultivate these 4 ways, knowing them to be the means and also the fruit of this path or state of grace. Verse 5. Singing his praises will arise in your heart when you read and reflect upon the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then intense longing to experience him directly in sadness until you do, in the way that he would directly communicate with the pure devotees as told in the accounts of their lives in the 84 and 252 Vaishnava stories, will arise when you serve him. That humility which invites his grace will arise when you humbly aspire to such humility. True detachment from everything else will arise in the heart when you experience the agony of separation from him, as described in Sri Acharyaji's Sannyas Nirane, or Conclusions on Renunciation treatise. Tika 5. But what is the perfection of these 4 traits? Regarded as a means, singing his praises removes your impurities. Seen as a divine reward, you will attain his direct sight. In the Venu Gita, Song of the Flute, and the Yugal Gita, Gopi's song in pairs of verses, the Gopi's only way of life is to hymn the Lord. Vaishnavas should also do this when not engaged in his service, waiting out the time until they next serve him and pining for that moment. Thus they come to the humble realization that they are devoid of means to reach him. However much service they perform, they still consider that they have never done the appropriate service, and they become truly humble. When such humility arises in the heart, then detachment develops from items and circumstances only related to their material existence, and they suffer crucial separation from him. This is the highest possible reward, because thereafter they experience all of his pastimes, and in this circumstance all the above 4 aspects of devotional life are perfected. Verse 6. When these 4 traits are perfected, there remains no further desire for anything. The source of all of this attainment is accomplished association, and without it, nothing will be gained. Tika 6. When the 4 traits described above, that is, singing his praises, pining for him, being humble and fully renounced, There remains no desire for any other practice. So first of all, praise the Lord, serve him, experience separation from him with humility, and renounce everything else with detachment. These constitute the fruit of all practices, and so any other preference disappears. These four are attained through the association of accomplished devotees, which is the basis of all of them. Sri Shaunakji has stated in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, neither heaven nor liberation can equal a moment spent with a devotee of the Lord, so what to speak of any human aspiration like kingship, etc. In the 11th canto, Sri Krishna tells Uddhav, Discourse 12, 1-7. Neither yoga, consisting of 8 limbs enumerated in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, nor Sankhya, knowledge of the distinctive character of the different categories discussed in the Sankhya system of philosophy, nor righteousness, consisting of non-violence, benevolence, etc., scriptural study or chanting of the Vedas, austerity and renunciation, nor pouring oblations into the sacred fire, and works of public utility such as the digging of wells and tanks and the laying out of gardens, nor the bestowal of gifts, observing fasts, worship of gods, muttering secret spells, resorting to holy waters and places of pilgrimage, undertaking sacred observances such as purity of body and mind, and the 5 forms of self-abnegation, non-violence, etc., gain me over, as does satsang capture me. For satsang actually puts an end to all other attachments. Thanks to the fellowship of saints, a number of Daityas, the sons of Diti, Rakshas, demons, birds and deer, Gandharvas and Apsaras, Nagas, Siddha, Charanas and Guhyaga, Yakshas, Vidyadhara, and among human beings, even Vaishnavas and Sudras, Vaishyas and Sudras, the lowest born, possessed of a Rajasic and Tamasi disposition, such as Vritasura, son of god Twasta through a Daitya mother, Prahalad, son of Kayadu, Vrishaparshva, Bali, Ban, Maya, and Vibhishan, subhumans like Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambawan, a bear, the celebrated elephant Gajendra, Jatayu, a vulture, Tuladhar, a merchant, Dharmavadya, a hunter by profession, Dharma Vyadha, Kubja, a hunchback damsel, the gopis, cowherdesses, as well as the wives of the Brahmins engaging in performing a sacrifice of Vraj, and others descended to my realm in different yugas. O sinless Uddhav, although they had never studied the Shruti text, never waited upon most exalted ones for the said purpose, had not observed any sacred vows, nor practiced any austerities, they nevertheless attained to me through the fellowship of saints alone. Thus the Lord told Uddhav that good association or satsang is the only practice that can encapture him, and that is by satsang alone that each and every type of being is fulfilled. Satsang is the root of all good practice, purifying the consciousness and heart, and should always be sought after. That is end verse Tika 6. Thus concludes letter 11. Aaj ke Anand ki jai. We continue tomorrow with letter 12. Sab Vaishnavan ko Saprem, Sadar, Sadenya, Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabhacharya ji ki jai, Shri Hari Rai ji ki jai, Shri Gopishwara ji ki jai, Shri Shri Ras Viharini Ju Vijayate Jai Jai Shri Radhe.